Hi everyone, and welcome back to another how-to resin tutorial. And in this video I'm showing you the correct way I measure and mix epoxy resin by volume, not by weight, for perfectly cured resin projects. And then I'm going to show you how you can use gold vinyl on some resin coasters, and I'm going to create 4 gorgeous quartz style personalized resin coasters. So let's get straight into this tutorial by showing you the correct way to measure resin by volume. So I have some epoxy resin. It comes with a part A, the resin, and a part B, the hardener. So this is a 1:1 ratio epoxy resin. This is my favorite. It's the easiest to measure out. So you will need a measuring jug, and in this example I just need 100 grams of resin. So I'm going to start by pouring out 50 grams of part A into the jug. And since this is by volume, you go by I until it reaches the mark. So in this case, 0.05 or 50. Then to this, I will need to add the same volume of part B, the hardener. So another 50 grams up to this mark, 0.1 or 100. And again, going by I until it reaches the marked level. So once this is done correctly, the next important step is to mix well for a minimum of 3 minutes. And I always set a timer. It's just become a habit of mine over the years, and so far I've never had a problem with my resin curing. Also important is to mix properly, using a clean stir stick or spatula, and it really must be clean. Mix well, not too fast, not too slow, or you'll create more bubbles than you want, and then scrape the sides and the bottom of the jug as you mix to mix in well both of the parts of the epoxy resin. Now if you keep to these 3 simple steps of measuring, timing and mixing, your resin will cure correctly and with no streaks or soft spots. And also important, make sure your jug is clean, free of dust and oils, and if it needs to be cleaned down, use some rubbing alcohol and then it's good to go. So once you've mixed it for 3 minutes, you should have a jug of clear resin, and you'll find bubbles, probably lots. So another tip is to leave it in the jug to rest for around 5 minutes just to let some of the bubbles escape. Otherwise, use it straight away and use a torch lighter or a heat gun to pop them in the surface. To avoid too many air pockets or bubbles on the surface of the mold, which will eventually be the top of this coaster in this example, I lay a thin layer of clear resin down on the base and pop some of the air pockets. It usually works better than just pouring, but most of the time you will still get some bubbles. It's inevitable. Then I'm going to mix up 3 colors in the same tones, a white, a beige and a darker beige, and I'm going to pour these into the mold. And because this is a 1:1 ratio resin, I can use my curing machine and save some curing time. And to add the gold vinyl, you have 2 choices. Either you place it on the top and leave it like this, or you can sandwich it in between 2 layers of resin to seal it in. by adding a clear resin on the top. And if you choose the first method and use permanent vinyl, you can change the vinyl out at a later date, and permanent vinyl is pretty resistant and lasts a while without pulling back up. But for this example, my client wants it embedded in resin, so once I've stuck the vinyl down well on top of the coaster and smoothed out the edges, I'll apply a layer of clear resin on the top and let this cure overnight. And I always like to add some gold gilding on the sides, and usually I try and match the shade of gold gilding to the shade of gold in the vinyl. So I'm using some gold pigment from Let's Resin, and I am mixing it in with some gloss varnish, and I apply using a paintbrush. And since I've used varnish to mix this in, there is no need to seal it afterwards. And personally, I find this method better than using a gold pen if you want the gold to last longer without rubbing off. And there you have two methods to make gorgeous coasters with vinyl. And if you're wondering how I make my vinyl, I use a Silhouette Portrait 3 and I buy a pack of permanent gold vinyl from Amazon. And if you want a full tutorial on how to create and print out these vinyl stickers, let me know in a comment if you're interested in a tutorial. I wish you all a great week, and I'll see you back soon for some more creative fun with resin.